known him for a long time now. He's just one of those guys that like just zeroes in on an idea and becomes an expert extremely fast, and it's very, very frustrating because he'll turn around and be like, "Why aren't you doing all these things?" I'm like, "Because I don't know them." That's Terry. So Terry's going to make us all look dumb very, very quickly, and so this is what it is: how to stop being a dumb marketer. Terry, I love you. I'm looking forward to this.
So great. Everybody can hear me. I sound good. You can see my screen. Just confirm real quick. Okay, cool. Yeah, so thank you first and foremost, Joe and team, for having me here. I'm not going to make anybody look stupid. I'm going to try to make you look really smart, actually. So this is going to be a different kind of presentation. I'm not going to be talking about the tactical, what works now kind of stuff. I'm going to be talking about the things that I've seen over my career. I've had the pleasure of working with or observing a ton of great marketers. Joe is one. And this presentation is kind of a summary of the things that I saw that they do different and what being really great at marketing really means. So I am Terry Godier. I am a marketer and a developer, which means that I'm twice as annoying at dinner parties. I've got about 20 years of experience in digital marketing. I started out as a wee young lad. This is the only thing that I've ever done. In fact, I spent the first few months doing SEO without realizing that it even have a name. So I went on to spend 7 years in-house at CBS, which is now Viacom CBS, doing SEO, earning hundreds of millions of organic visits. I did co-found IntelliFluence with Joe, which, by the way, is absolutely the best influencer marketing network on the entire internet. I'm not biased at all. And then I co-founded something called User Insights, which is a remote user testing platform. And as part of User Insights, I watched, tens of thousands of videos of real people doing real things on websites. So I took those experiences and those insights, and I started writing about them at my new project, which is called Panoply. And it's a website, it's a newsletter, it's all kinds of stuff. There's a podcast with Andy Duke, who's a former poker player. I really think about thinking a lot, and I talk about thinking. And I'm just sharing everything I learned about marketing over there, and I'll bug you about that again here in a little while. So let's get into it. What we're going to cover, we're going to talk about how you can make better decisions. We're going to talk about how you can build better websites, and we're going to talk about how you can improve your marketing. So at a high level, repeated success with marketing happens through having a mature set of principles, strategies, and tactics. Principles are fundamental assumptions or beliefs, and they're better if they're gained through experience or backed up with data. Strategies are the application of principles for a desired outcome, and tactics are the practical means by which strategies are executed. So why the top-down focus? First, because I think it makes sense to put the most thought into the things that don't change often. And principles are also where the strategy begins and where the tactics come from the strategies and so on, kind of cascades. So these are the ground rules, and these are the high-level concepts that we'll build on. An example of a principle is that links help websites rank, right? For all the SEOs watching this. And that changes rarely. Strategies change sometimes. So guest posting is one strategy of getting links that can help websites rank. Tactics change often. There's a whole list of things you can do to get guest posts, right? So let's jump straight into how you can make better decisions. Throughout your career as a marketer, you're going to spend most of your time making decisions. And it's the quality of these decisions that will determine your success rate. So the fundamental truth that I arrived at when thinking about how people do good marketing and how I can get better at marketing is that marketing is actually just decision making. Here's an actual picture of someone getting better at marketing. So anybody that's tried to do this, right, tried to become a good marketer and tried to be successful, you realize quickly that you don't get better at marketing by trying harder. It's not like you can run more miles or you can lift heavier weight and you get better at it. You get better by learning how to make better decisions. You get better by thinking more clearly. And I think it's interesting that the harder we think very hard as marketers. We put a lot of work into thinking, and we do a lot of thinking so that our customers can do very little thinking. We make things much easier for them. I'm going to tell a story now. This is one of my favorite stories. I hope you haven't heard it. It's called the banana story. So in the early 1900s, fruit was kind of a big deal. There were two American fruit companies that wanted to buy this 5,000-acre parcel of land down in Honduras. Okay, but there was a problem. Two different locals claimed to hold a deed to the land. So the first company was called United Fruit, and they were one of the most powerful corporations in the entire world. They did what big corporations do, and they dispatched a team of well-paid lawyers to go down to Honduras and search and analyze every document related to this piece of land to figure out who actually owned this thing, because two people can't own the same piece of land. So the second company was a tiny little startup, tiny little upstart, owned by a guy named Samuel Zemurray. And he obviously couldn't match the resources of United Fruit, right? So while United Fruit's expensive legal team went down there and poured over documents, Zemurray just met with both the locals and paid them both, right? So the moral of this story is that United Fruit was way too focused on the wrong outcome. They did things the way they were supposed to be done because that's the way they'd always been done. And that was the outcome that they had optimized for. Zemurray just optimized for being the owner of the land, paid them both twice, paid twice, and was done with it, right? So without great decision-making prowess, this result would not have been possible. So I say it again. Better decision-making is the same thing. It's equal to better marketing. So how do we make better decisions? First way is by having better data. You can't excavate truth from misleading data. Any story that you try to tell based on a lie is probably not going to be true, right? The next way that we can do this is through having fewer assumptions. So anytime that I start doing something, I try to get some clarity on what exactly it is that I'm doing. What do I expect to happen? And let's take that one step further. And you should actually think about what are the potential outcomes and which one is the most likely and why. Next, you need to pick an outcome. What do I actually want to happen? You would be surprised how many people sit down and say, I'm doing SEO. And that's it. That's the outcome that they have, is that they're actively doing SEO. Not that they have this page type that now ranks much better in Google. Not that they make these many sales. They're just doing SEO to do SEO. They're sending people to Honduras to figure out who owned a piece of land, not to buy the land. And the final thing I think you should do for fewer assumptions is you need to figure out how you're going to know if you're right or you're wrong. So evolution has made our brains lazy. Anybody that's ever built a website and watched what users do on it know that many people don't even have a brain, right? So it's good, though, because if we had to wake up every day and deliberate over every decision we've ever made, we'd never get past breakfast, right? So instead, our brain uses a set of shortcuts called heuristics. Heuristics are also what Google uses to make decisions about where to rank a website. So mental models are ways to break out of the existing patterns of thinking and to see things more clearly. We should strive for objectivity, and we should stop doing things the way that they've always been done simply because they've always been done that way. And a good example of this type of thinking is Elon Musk. So his background's in physics. And one of the first things that you're taught as a budding physicist is how to reason from first principles. So someone someday said to Elon that humans are not a multiplanetary species because rockets are not reusable. But his reaction was like, well, why not? And so on, we have SpaceX. So if you start reasoning from first principles, I'm certain that you and Elon can have the same things. So let's talk about how to build better websites. Rule number one, if everything is important, nothing is. So imagine that we were at a used car lot and you were trying to sell me a car. And you wanted to tell me about the price, the mileage, the warranty, the previous owner, safety ratings, all these different things. But you can't say them all at once. And you can't do that online either. You physically can't say 10 different things at the same time. I've tried. So you have to prioritize. And really, there are three ways that you can do this. If we talk about information hierarchy, there are three different ways that you can control an experience. Number one is size. So size is one of the strongest indicators of importance that we have. The brain recognizes it. You don't have to trick it on anything. It just believes it, that it's true. So this is very simple, but it's important. So if you want more people to see it, you make it bigger. But note that bigger is always in relation to what else is around it. You can't just make everything bigger and expect this to work. So this is very much a relative kind of thing. If you take a look at this slide, the next tool that you have is color. So the eye is attracted to that blue-green color right in the center there like a magnet. Nothing else really matters. Forget this F shape that they say we browse in. Forget, running down the right sidebar. This is what you get. You see the color, I promise. So I will say that most websites use far too much color. If you use too much color, things begin to compete with itself, right? They compete with each other, and it gets really messy. That's why you should isolate your CTA colors and things like that. So this is definitely one of those less is more scenarios. And, through my experience, I really think, just to answer a question quickly, is that you need 3 or 4 colors at most, like not much more than that. I don't have any good examples, and I haven't seen any good examples of websites that perform well that have, far in excess of that. So location is the next thing that we have, and location heavily impacts your experience. So above the fold, everybody knows how important that is. That's really just a location. It's a location of a document. It's first, and you can be certain that in most cases, every user is going to see it. So that's why you put your most important stuff there. But now if we take a look at this mock-up that's here, it's just a web page that I have here, right? So I got a logo, I got a hero section, got a call to action as an image, but also on the top right, we have a navigation bar with a couple of side quests. What I really care about is the CTA. What happens if we remove this navigation bar completely? Because I could see some users actually using this and circumventing my CTA. What do you think happens to the click-through rate on that CTA? Now that's the only thing that you can do. It skyrockets. So yeah, location matters. The next thing location does is implies groupings. So the brain uses location and proximity to understand how information relates to other pieces of information. So this gets really important when designing complex pages or UI elements, particularly on mobile. On desktop, you have all this space, and on mobile, things are much more constrained. And often responsive sites, they collapse the content and stack the content, which leaves all these really weird implied groupings that you didn't really intend for. So pay close attention to that. I've seen that become an issue very often. So to repeat it, these are kind of the first principles of building better websites. You have these 3 tools to establish hierarchy. It's really all you have. Fundamentally, what you're thinking about. These are the first principles of this: size, color, and location. Rule number 2, you should build websites for users and not for the business. So this is the sum of all the things that I've learned from watching all those user testing videos. When you sit down and you build a website according to what the business wants or what you need to happen on your website, you're pretty much always going to miss the mark. Instead, if you build your websites for the people that are going to use them in the way that they want to use them, you can't miss. So on the right here, I have an example of a piece of news content. And believe me, I spent 7 years doing news SEO, and it's unbelievable that they did this, but they did. Bloomberg is a real news outlet. And a couple of years ago, they put out an article that looked like this because they wanted to be cool and they wanted to get into brutalist design. Can you imagine if every piece of content that Bloomberg made looked like this? You would find a different news outlet. If every news outlet looked like this on the internet, we'd probably, watch TV or something. So if you make your website easier to use, more people will be able to use it and more people will want to use it. I have 2 screenshots here, shopping for a laptop. On the left, we have Apple. What we have here is a great hero image, front and center. I know what the product looks like. I know what the product is called. I know what the price is. And I know what I can do about it. If I go over here on the right, I start looking at this Dell example, okay? First of all, I have to click that image and engage with the page to be able to get a good look at what this thing actually looks like, because it's confusing. Next, we have this processor information at the bottom, i7-101OU, 10 core generation Intel. I don't know what any of that stuff means. Then we have different models to select from. We got a starting price, which is great. And then we can't even buy this thing. We have to compare 8 options in order to even go any further. And my favorite part about this, okay, pay attention. What happens here, Dell knows this sucks, okay? Because they've interrupted my session with this obtrusive pop-up that says, do you need help finding a product? Yeah, Dell, I think I do, okay? Like, this is bad. They know this sucks. Apple would never do this. And I don't think that you should do it either. So let's talk about how you can improve your marketing. As marketers, it's really easy to get stuck and think, okay, I do SEO. I just wake up and I do that all day as this continuous effort. That's my job. It's not true. Today you're doing link building. Tomorrow you're doing content stuff. Then you have a meeting. You know, you have different jobs, right? You have different roles, different jobs to be done. It's far more beneficial to adopt a campaign-oriented flow with defined beginnings and ends. This allows you to stop and learn something and try again. Allows you to reflect on what you're doing while you're doing it. It allows your marketing to get smarter over time. The most uncomfortable thing about this, and the reason why I think most people don't do it, is that you're going to spend a lot of time figuring out what you were wrong about. And then like getting into gruesome detail about how you were wrong and how you were basically an idiot. So, but the good news is that that's how you excavate the truth from your assumptions. It's how you do it. All great marketers that I know are self-deprecating and are willing to go through this process. The next thing that I think you should do is you need to obsess about context. So what is the context of the user's visit? If I'm arriving at your site from an email newsletter that you've sent me, does it make sense to show me a newsletter pop up as soon as I get there? Probably not. How many sites do that? A lot. What is the context of the session so far? So what other pages has this user seen? Where are they at in their customer journey? What is the context of this content? So are we presenting the user with information that helps support the proper decision at the proper time? It's the right sequence. Or are we offering information that sends people on side quests that they might never make it back from? So when a user visits your site from a desktop device, you can make a few guesses as to what's going on, like physically in that person's space. They're probably sitting in front of a desk or a table. Maybe they've got their laptop on their legs while they're on the couch. Since desktop and laptop devices are so big, it's difficult to imagine your customers using them while like driving a car or while cooking dinner in a house full of screaming kids, though I think I have done that actually. For mobile devices, though, anything goes. Like users on mobile devices could be doing almost anything while they're trying to do something on your website, trying to understand your product, and they've got kids climbing all over them. I've done that. So this means that you're almost always dealing with fragmented attention in a mobile context. Your site needs to be focused and simpler to use in a mobile environment than it needs to be in a desktop environment. I think that's true. I think that's something that responsive designers get wrong some of the time. In addition, on mobile, the distractions are built into the device. Like, how often are you trying to buy something and somebody texts you and you got to respond to it, and then you get a phone call and then your kid's sister FaceTimes you from college? Well, that happens to me, but like all this stuff going on, right? And then I'm checking the weather and then I'm like, oh, that's right, I was going to go sign up for IntelliFluence, right? So it's tough out there. It's hard out there. So obsess about the context. Be aware, be empathetic to what your customers are going through as they just try to get something done on your site. Major key to success here. As a marketer, you should always have a hypothesis and a process. If you get one thing from what I'm talking about right now, please have a hypothesis and a process. Bring that with you. So the hypothesis, let's be clear about our assumptions. And really the goal here is to figure out, where am I personally injecting opinion, bias, crap that I made up? What is me and what is real, right? Where do I end and where does the truth begin? Next, you need to be able to clearly state what it is that you're doing, what you expect, and how you're going to know if you're wrong. That's a hypothesis. Here's one for you. I'm going to fill in the blanks. I'm going to go back into my old content and I'm going to add several paragraphs of new text. I believe that these pages will gain organic traffic because there will be more keywords present, and Google loves fresh content. I'll know if I'm right when the pages get recrawled and cached and traffic increases for these pages isolated from the rest of the site. That's a hypothesis. I don't know if it's real, but it's a hypothesis. It doesn't have to be real. So here's the process. Hypothesis and a process. Talk about the process. Adopt a campaign-oriented approach. Know the past failure conditions. Know how and when you're going to reflect and iterate. It's the most important part. It's not a continuous process. It's a campaign. So you have to stop. You should know in advance when you're going to stop. Do a post-mortem. Excavate some truth. Feel bad because you were wrong. And then do it again and do it better. Fail better next time. So let's talk about data. Most marketers default to collecting everything. Collect all the things because I can, it's easy, and Google Analytics will do it for free. I think that's lazy. I think that you should define exactly what you want, exactly what you're going to instrument, and what story you're going to try to tell. So data is inert. You have to give data, you have to give it action, like Frankenstein. Like you got to give it life. Define your use case, figure out the story you want to tell, and then sit down and think about it. If I was right, what would the data look like? And envision it. Picture it in your mind. If I was wrong, what would the data look like? Picture that too, because it's probably more likely, given my experience anyway. Okay, Terry, let's get specific. All this stuff has been great. First principles based approach. I get it. You think about thinking, but let's talk turkey. There are 4 ways to grow a website. Took me 20 years to get here. I'm going to tell you what they are. Number 1, you can improve the website. You make it easier to use and more people are going to use it. I promise. You do this by talking to the people who are going to use it. You get bonus points if you make it easier to use for the people who actually want to use the thing. Second thing you can do, make your products easier to understand and more people are going to understand them. Simple, but these are first principles. I leave the strategy up to you. I'm just telling you what I learned. Next, you can improve the message. I define the message as a story that you tell about your product. I think that you should make it easier to understand. And I think that for most of us, you get bonus points if you make it easier for them to tell other people what it means. I also think that before we buy certain things, we tell ourselves, people like us buy things like this. I think Seth Godin said that, and I love it. So what that means is that you should be clear about who you're selling to, and you should absolutely not be afraid to speak directly to them. I also believe that people do not buy the best product. They buy the product that they understand the fastest. You can optimize for this by speeding up the time to the aha moment for anybody that builds SaaS products in the audience here. The aha moment is when you get the fundamental utility of a new product. So you go, oh, I get it. This is useful. And Telefluence gets me social shares. Telefluence gets me influencers. Telefluence makes Joe my friend. So I think that you should also tell a story that people want to hear to sell a product that people want to buy. People get this wrong all the time. To create a great business, you have to offer something that people want, okay? You'll sell more of it if you can help more people understand what it is, what it does for them, and how they can get it. And that's what the message is. Next way to grow a website, get more eyeballs. If a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. I don't know. But if you build the best and most user-friendly website in the entire world with the best products and the best pricing, but no qualified visitor ever arrives, you're not going to sell anything. That much I do know. People can't buy what they don't know exists. There are a lot of reasons why someone might be more likely to buy your product, but in particular, there are 3 that we can do something about. Number 1, they are genuinely interested in what it is that you're selling. Number 2, they know someone else who might be interested. I know some things I could sell Joe right now. I promise. Number 3, they may not be aware of it, but they're experiencing a problem that you solve. These are the people that you need to go out there and find. These are the eyeballs that you want to capture. Having more of these people visit your website should mean that you sell more things. I always think it's a good idea to pay for context. So finding people who are looking for what you sell is pretty straightforward. Google Ads is a great platform for doing this, as is SEO. Google Ads is typically not super complex to scale because you already know what you're buying more of. You're buying the context to the visit. You know what that person was looking for right before they found you. The tougher part of how to impact customers when they're not looking directly for you for what you sell, and that's like 99% of the time that they spend online. Most time, people aren't looking for what you sell. So these are the visits for which you have to bring the context. Bring your own context. So this can be as elementary as showing up on best of product category lists, and it can be as sophisticated as defining new problems that people didn't realize they had and then solving them. The final way to grow a web business is to increase lifetime value. It's cheaper to keep the customers you have than it is to go out and acquire new ones. This means that you need to treat your customers well. As marketers, I think we have a responsibility. Be nice to people, please. Make sure that your products do what they're supposed to do, and make sure that you hold up your end of the bargain. Deliver on your promises. Provide great customer service, whatever that looks like in your industry. If you do these things, getting repeat business can often be as simple as telling your existing customers about that new thing that you do, as long as it's relevant, to what they bought in the first place. For other businesses, such as software as a service or recurring billing, sometimes it's a matter of reminding our users why they pay you. So what value do they derive from your product? What have you done for them lately? Remind them. So I like to think of this as a North Star metric. It's the one number that I can point to prove why I'm worth it. In SaaS products, I put that front and center in the dashboard. You want your customers to see that as quickly and often as possible. There's also a lot of value in removing friction. So please don't make it hard to continue being a customer. One example of this is like offering dunning support, especially if you sell subscriptions to something that rebill at a yearly cadence or something like that. Avoid the frustration and service interruption by just reminding those users to update their card prior to the removal period. But wait, there's more. So here's some parting thoughts for you. The general idea is that we're all competing in an attention economy. So what this means is that attention is a scarce resource. It also means that attention is valuable. Once an advertiser earns your initial attention, he or she must quickly submit a claim for more continued attention. This is what we do with websites. This is why people use pop-ups. It's why people ask to talk to you later. More attention requires focus and energy, and the brain loves conserving energy, as we talked about before, heuristics and so on. And it's hard to get. Continued attention is earned. I think it's easy to get the visit. It's hard to get the purchase. So you're in a race, and the finish line is the aha moment. It's true. In order to buy something, we have to understand first why we should. So a short list enumerated here is like, we have to understand who the product is for. Is it for me? Do people like me buy things like this? We have to understand what the product is. We have to understand how this product makes life less painful. And we have to understand what I can do about it. How can I get it? What do you want me to do next? The next thing that I believe, this is fundamental. This is one of the last things I have to say. Purchases are often emotional solutions to logical problems. And when I mention that marketers have kind of a responsibility, this is what I'm talking about. I think it's easy to manipulate people into buying things. And it's easy to appeal to, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and these types of things. And I mean, it's in general, if we think about this, it's certainly comforting to believe that when we buy a product, we do so logically and with this intellectual rigor, right? We want to believe that we define our requirements and evaluate every potential solution with an objective and critical eye, but nobody builds a spreadsheet to pick out a pair of shoes. The truth is that almost all of our purchases are emotional in nature, and we buy things because it makes us feel a certain way about ourselves as we are, or more likely as we want to be. Many, many, many purchases are aspirational in nature. So with that in mind, I have something to sell you. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, please do come over and check out my thing. It's called Panoply. And I know that's hard to spell. It's a weird word. And I thought about this. If you can't spell it, you can go to ican'tspellthat.com and you'll get there. And if you can't remember it, right, then you can go to whatisitagain.com and you'll get there too.